Welcome to Living the Smarter Science of Slim, where we provide a scientifically proven lifestyle for long-term health and fat loss by eating more and exercising less, but smarter.
Eat smarter, exercise smarter, live better. I am so ready for that.
Hey everyone, Jonathan Bailor and Carrie Brown coming at you with some Smarter Science of Slim action this week. And I say action because we're actually going to, this week, we're going to maybe transition the podcast a little bit. We're going to move a little bit away from the chronological narrative nature we've had up to this point. I mean, really, I think we're at podcast 31 now, and we've really gone from 1 to 31, really telling one consistent story. And that story's done, but that's by no means the end of this podcast.
Yay! We love podcasts!
It's more just the beginning of the next phase of the podcast. So we're going to get a little bit more dynamic. Each episode is going to be a little bit more modular. So if you're just joining us now, please make sure to listen to the previous 15 hours of podcasts. So, hey, it's 15 hours of free content. You can't beat that. And we're going to wrap that up this week, and we're going to start on a new adventure on the same podcast. So that's pretty cool.
That's awesome. Except I realized I never said hello.
And
people,
this is
lovely
Carrie.
People in podcast listening land.
And it's all about new adventures. I can't get into too much detail here, but talking about new adventures, I think we can't get into details, like I said, but Carrie's got some new adventures going on. I've got some new adventures going on. Carrie, just in brief, talk about your new adventures.
My new adventure involved a lot of noise and some handsome men. And
remember, I said not a lot of detail. Jesus. Well played.
And a very big, lovely new space in my kitchen.
Oh, okay. I was hoping you would end that sentence appropriately. Yes, Carrie had some remodeling done.
I've had some remodeling done, or not remodeling. I've had a whole extra. I knocked out a bathroom and a pantry because they were completely useless to me. And now I have a big space which I'm going to move my blogging and my photography studio into that space. So it's all in the same space as the kitchen. So I quit burning stuff and get to eat more and run up and downstairs less.
Well, no, that's awesome. I mean, because it's for you. I mean, your job involves cooking and then photographing it. So the ability to do those simultaneously is very, very cool. So, and that's, I have sort of similar news. I was very happy to see that this week a counter offer on a home was accepted. So we're moving forward with a new home purchase for myself and my wife, which is just wonderful news. My wife and I are like two peas in a pod. We're very close. We get along very well, but we live in a 680 square foot condo right now. So I don't care how much you like someone, when you have 680 square feet and one teeny tiny bathroom, having to rush someone out of the shower because you need to use the restroom is just never a pleasant dynamic, and also potentially some professional transitions for me. Not 100% yet, but some exciting opportunities on the horizon. So it's all about transitions for all of us right now. So
hey,
that's cool.
You know that 680 square foot and one bathroom thing?
Yes.
That's exactly why I live with cats. I never have that problem.
No, you absolutely
do not. In fact, I just took a bathroom out because I had one too many. I had two too many, really.
Rub it in. Yes. So it will be very nice to live in a place which is not the same size as the studio we're recording in right now. So that will be fun. So getting back to the science. So let's wrap up the narration or the narrative nature we've had by really just kind of, Carrie, I want to take a step back, and actually I want to just start the meat of this week's podcast with a quote by a researcher, Dr. Ufi Ravenskov, who I really just love this quote, and I think it embodies what we've been doing for the past 30 or so podcasts. So I was just going to share this quote here real quick. True scientists put the solution to a medical problem first and not the preservation of their own hypothesis, no matter how clever the hypothesis may seem or how proud of themselves they may be for creating it. And I think that really just encapsulates what we've been talking about, how we've been told quite a few hypotheses, and that's what they are, hypotheses. And frankly and sadly, over the past 40 years, that hypothesis, we've seen the results of it, and the results speak for themselves. And it's just so exciting that we now have scientific fact that we can bring to the table to reverse this horrendous epidemic that's upon us. So I think it's really exciting.
It's very exciting. And it reminded me, although I don't know why, it reminded me of the craziness that surrounds us when Pepsi just announced
Oh, their weight loss
their
cola?
magic fat-blocking, sugar, high fructose corn syrup laden pop.
Yep. So, folks, if you haven't...
In response to the mayor of New York's "you can't buy soda," they've come out, and I was just like,
"Oh no,
wow!"
The article I read about it was there was actually a quote from them, which was something like, "Now you don't have to choose between the pizza and the hamburger; you can have both." Yeah. And their fat blocking soda.
And guess what? The magic fat blocking stuff is made of potato.
Yes.
Bless their hearts.
Bless their heart. And folks, just a good mental trick I find is anytime you hear about anything, pill, powder, potion, that's going to magically solve this problem, try to think about that in terms of, imagine you heard someone say, hey, I have this pill that makes smoking not damage your lungs anymore. Like it doesn't, the foods, these insane foods we're talking about, they're literally incompatible with our body. Just like smoke is incompatible with your lungs. Like your lungs are meant to handle fresh air. You breathe in anything. I mean, it's not just fresh. I mean, you breathe in too many paint fumes or too much carbon monoxide. I mean, anything that isn't just oxygen, your lungs stop working. When you eat things other than the natural whole foods we're supposed to be eating, eventually your metabolism is just going to stop working. And there is no pill that will ever be developed that will make that untrue. Just like there's no pill that makes oil and water mixed together. It's just not possible.
That's a good way of looking at it. I've never really thought about it like that, but that's a good way of looking at it.
So let's talk about some other, I think, maybe good ways to think about this whole lifestyle, this sane eating lifestyle and this eccentric exercise. One way I like to say this is, I mean, certainly we live in an insane world. Carrie is great about reminding us, even when we talk about drinking a lot of water, how even that can become complicated because what looks like water isn't. It's sweetened with something. But one thing that I find, especially to people who live in the States, potentially even in Europe, people who live in Western cultures, is, there's a lot of other cultures around the world and even other lifestyles that practice dietary restriction in the same world that we live in, such as like the Islamic religions, Hindu religion, the Jewish religions, and even just individuals who are diabetics or vegetarians. If we look at all of those people and we assume that a third of them don't actually follow those dietary restrictions, we still end up with about 2 billion people around the world that restrict their diet in a way that is more difficult than staying sane. And I just think that's such a profound thing to think about because 2 billion people is a lot of people. And certainly those 2 billion people don't have anything on us. So when we talk about going sane and just enjoying as much non-starchy vegetables, nutrient-dense protein, whole food natural fats, and low-sugar fruits as we want, I mean, we can absolutely do that. If 2 billion people can do more restrictive stuff than that, we can certainly do that.
Yes, we can.
So I think that's just another interesting mental shift. Similar one has to do with the exercise. And if you look at the statistic in the States, the average individual in the United States spends about 24 minutes or over 24 minutes per day driving to and from work. When we talk about exercising eccentrically, we talk about spending about 20 minutes per week driving a hormonal clog out of our body. If we can spend over 25 minutes per day commuting, man, we're only talking about spending 20 minutes per week driving that hormonal clog from our body. I just think when we frame it this way, it shows us that, of course it's more difficult than doing nothing, but it's also difficult to have diabetes, and it's also difficult to have cancer, and it's also difficult to, not be pleased with the way you feel or look. So we just got to frame it right, I think.
Yeah, no, I agree. And what you were saying also made me think that something else that makes it difficult is the money associated with having those diseases. Mm-hmm. That makes life difficult too.
Absolutely.
That's hard. And to not have to deal with that is huge when you consider the relatively tiny amount of time we're suggesting you put into making those things go away or
Absolutely.
not getting them in the first place.
Absolutely. And maybe we can just look at, we just had a presidential election here. I mean, our podcast is probably going to come out way after the presidential election, and maybe even time for the next presidential election. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, we record these ahead of time. Is, obviously healthcare and all of the billions and billions. I think it's up to something like $190 billion per year is spent on medical issues that can be prevented through lifestyle intervention like we're talking about here. But frequently we hear, well, eating these types of foods is expensive. We've already talked about how it doesn't have to be expensive, but even if it is slightly more expensive, I mean, having diabetes costs about $50,000 a year.
Right. I think you have to, when it comes to the money aspect, you have to look at almost at your costs for a year.
Exactly.
And not just across your grocery bill. You have to look across the whole year and with all the related expenses.
Absolutely.
For example, people are just like, you bought 50 pounds of ground almonds. They're like, why would you do that? I'm like, because one, I don't want to go to the store every 5 seconds. I want to be able to just open the cupboard and have them.
Yep.
But also, it's half the price. And so, and it may take you a little while if you're on a tight budget. It might take you a little while to switch from weekly shopping to bulk shopping, because one week you'll have to buy, $100 of almonds.
Yep.
And then, so it might take you a little while to get going, but once you've shifted to that bulk buying, your total spend on grocery will actually go down, not up.
Absolutely.
Once you've got it going.
In many ways, you can think of it almost like an investment. You spend a little bit more money up front, and it pays dividends over time, which is cool.
So whey powder, I mean, the whey powder that you and I use is not, it's not cheap, but I've just bought a 10-pound bag of chocolate and a 10-pound of strawberry and 10-pound vanilla, and it cost me whatever, $280. But I won't have to buy any for a really long time now, and I saved a lot of money over buying, the 5-pound bags or the 1-pound bags or whatever else, plus the transportation to keep going and getting them because the shipping was free.
Absolutely.
And so once you get into that bulk purchase rhythm, you'll actually save a lot of money. It just takes a little investment up front.
It's like once you stock up. And the other thing, it's all, I think relativity is such an important play here. Like we could say, Carrie just, if you were listening closely, Carrie just said $280. And you're like, wait, you just spent $280 on whey powder? Okay, one, she probably purchased 6 months to a year's worth of it. The other thing to keep in mind is we got to look at it per serving. We always got to look at it per serving. So if you're, 30 grams of protein, that's incredibly filling. It's incredibly good for you. It's part of a complete meal. Breaking it down by serving, you're looking at like 25 cents.
Right.
You cannot buy a can of Coke for 25 cents. And we're talking about some really high quality food. So when you actually break this stuff down by meal, you can make some of Carrie's exquisite SANE recipes, like a serving of that for under $3 easily. You go to McDonald's and you spend $5 to $6.
Right.
Easily.
Yeah.
So, we got to keep that relative. And another thing, which I think is interesting about living this lifestyle, which I'm sure a lot of our readers, Carrie, I know you have, and I know I have faced, and again, our readers and our listeners definitely have, is as we start to eat this way, people kind of might be a little snarky with us, saying things like, don't you like food? Or some, kind of snarky things like that. And one thing that I always find interesting about that, or just an interesting way to look at it, is the individuals who say to us, don't you like food? Those are the individuals who are dieting. Those are the individuals who are intentionally trying to eat less food. Whereas we're the opposite of disliking food. Like we're going out of our way to eat more food and to eat the finest foods available.
That's the thing that makes me laugh, is that we're the ones that are actually eating food. And they're the ones that are eating a chemical I don't know what.
Absolutely.
That's kind of funny.
Yeah, and one just trying to like their idea of like you skip breakfast, skip lunch, or eat some Special K cereal or something like that. Whereas we're just saying
eat real food.
Eat real food, and not only that, but it's like someone who really likes music or really likes wine or really likes cigars. They don't just listen to anything or drink anything or smoke anything. They're very selective, and in fact, being selective is often the characteristic of someone who cares deeply about something, not someone who doesn't like something. people who just kind of take whatever and do whatever, those are usually people that actually don't care too much about what we're dealing with. Whereas people who are selective and conscious, that's usually a sign of a discerning taste and someone who really values that thing. So really, it's the opposite of disliking food on so many levels.
I had a lovely lady email me this week to tell me that her husband has gone sane and he doesn't even realize it because she's been cooking all the recipes on my blog, which are all sane, but they're all really yummy. And so he doesn't even realize that he's on a diet. He doesn't know it. And she says it's been so easy to make him go sane without him knowing it because he loves all your food. So, you know, for people who think, when we talk about what we do, when people who think health food, they're thinking traditional health food, a lot of which tastes awful. That's not what we're about.
Absolutely. Well, and it's funny, too, because everyone, literally everyone, eats sanely already sometimes, right? Like if you've ever been to a barbecue and had grilled meat or fish and vegetables, and that was your meal, you had an extremely sane meal, and you probably were like, that was delicious. So, I mean, we eat sane all the time. It's just about doing it consistently. Right. That's really it. Another quote I wanted to bring up, which is just talking about when people criticize us or say snarky things. I mean, that's going to happen. Anytime we do anything which isn't normal, people are going to have issues with it. Dr. Seuss actually has this wonderful quote where he said, "Those who mind don't matter, and those who matter don't mind."
Love that. And
I just think, I mean, like, truly, that is awesome, right? I just think that's great. And then the other thing that I like to keep in mind is, I mean, I just mentioned, you know, anytime we try to do something which isn't normal, people are going to try to bring us back to normal. The key thing to keep in mind that at least helps me personally, and Carrie, I want your thoughts on this, is it sounds simple, but like, look at it deeply. If we don't want what everyone else has, we can't do what everyone else does. I'll say it slightly differently. If we don't want typical results, we can't do what's typically done. Right. Right, and let me just unpack that a little bit, right? Like, if someone is not happy with what's going on in their life, and they're criticizing you for doing something different, like, you can see that doesn't make any sense, because they're like, well, doing what they're doing is clearly not going to achieve the result you want. So if you don't want what everyone else has, you can't do what everyone else does. So in some sense, if you're not doing what everyone else is doing, it's probably a good sign, because you probably don't want what everyone else has. Right. You don't want to be one of the 95% of people that are forever on a diet and they don't work. Exactly. You don't want to be part of the, you know, 1 in every 4 people. Carrie's cell phone went off. Podcasting violation. Podcasting violation. Carrie's so red right now. Did you all notice how quickly I turned it off? Carrie, literally, you can tell she's been exercising smarter, because she just like leaped over the table, dove, and turned off her cell phone. So I love it. I love it. So now I'm all red and I'm going to turn the thing off. Now she's okay. Now we're good. Now it's texting me. Carrie's in high demand. I think people are just calling in to give her feedback on her delicious recipes. So no, it's great, folks. I mean, I just wanted to, you know, provide some ways to help our mind process, because these are changes and they are significant changes. But when we can keep those in perspective and just have some great insights from people like Dr. Seuss, I feel like that can help us stay sane very easily. So, Carrie, what I wanted to do next in the podcast here was to talk about, you know, we talked about how this can be a bit of a challenge, but how we can overcome that. And I know both you and I have some techniques that we each use that makes, for our lifestyles, going sane and getting eccentric easier. Just, you know, various things we do. And I'll share my first. We've talked about this before, but I'm a Costco-aholic. I have no affiliation with Costco. I'm not being paid anything to say this. I pay Costco a hell of a lot of money every week when I go grocery shopping there. But for me, Carrie mentioned this, buying in bulk. Shopping at Costco, I love. I like to shop at bulk grocery stores. Carrie, what are some of the things you like to do? Trader Joe's. Trader Joe's? And I know that's kind of specific to the US. Sorry, international listeners. But if you are in the US, Trader Joe's is awesome. And I think maybe I would love to go to Costco more, but there's just me. I go to Costco for cat food, but nice. But for me, some of the bulk in Costco is just too bulk for one little girl. So I shop at Trader Joe's because it's so cheap, but the quality is far higher. Absolutely. But it's a lot less money. Stuff like green tea is just like
crazy cheap. Just a lot of things. So that's my go-to place.
That's awesome. Well, and if I had to make one recommendation to any listener or reader of the Smarter Science of Slim to make sanity easier, and it took me months to convert Carrie. I'm not in the business of converting people, but Carrie is a unique case. It is a high quality blender, and the reason for this is, the number one quote unquote requirement of going sane is eating a minimum of 10 servings of non-starchy vegetables per day. And if you're a busy person, which I know a lot of us are, sitting down and eating 10 servings of non-starchy vegetables a day, it's not that it's impossible, it's just not necessarily super practical. I would love to do it if someone would cook it for me, and if I could didn't have meetings.
I will not be your personal chef.
But the way I get around that is I make green smoothies. But you got to have a high quality blender to do this. I mean, if you have a $50 blender, it's going to break vegetables up into little pieces, and it's going to be chunky and disgusting. But I have a Vitamix blender. There's other things like Blend Tech. There's also another brand which isn't as good called the Ninja, but it's much more affordable. It's going to take things that you never thought could become liquid and turn them into a liquid. It's just shocking.
And I got to say, because I'm new to this, and relatively new to this, and you're not, if you get one, your first experience with the Vitamix will just have you going, why didn't I not have one of these 20 years ago or 10 years ago or however long? Because the difference in the product you get at the end of using a Vitamix versus a Cuisinart or one of the regular
it's like $50
blenders
blender,
it is day and night, absolutely day and night. The soups on my blog are, again, I mean, they're wonderful in a regular blender. You still get the flavor, but the texture is just not the same. Whereas in a Vitamix, it's just a completely different experience. You'll understand on your very first smoothie or your very first soup why we say invest in a high-speed blender.
Yeah, and again, just to reiterate, neither Carrie nor I have any affiliation. We're not getting any money for these recommendations. These are things that we just found and used. So this is not meant to be an infomercial. And like I said, there's other, like Vitamixes are going to cost you. If you buy, they've got a bunch of different models. Personally, there's really no difference. I mean, I've looked at them. I recommend buying a refurbished one. You can buy them from the Vitamix website. They're like $330, but they have the same warranty, all the same goodness. They're going to try to sell you one that's like $520. There's no need to buy that one. So it's $330. That's obviously a lot of money for a blender, but it comes with a 7-year warranty, and their customer service is ridiculous. I've broken mine 3 times. You call them, they freaking send you new stuff. So that breaks down to about $50 a year. It's a pretty good deal. And Carrie already said this, but I like to use an analogy when I talk about high-end blenders. A high-end blender is to a low-end blender a bit like an airplane is to a car, meaning they're both modes of transportation, but not only is one much faster than the other, but an airplane can do things like go from the United States to Europe that a car just can't do. And a Vitamix is going to, or a Blend Tech, or I've never actually used the Ninja, but I've used a Vitamix and a Blend Tech, and those are the really high-end ones. It's going to allow you to do things like I make protein pancakes where I use this casein-based protein called UMP, and I put coconut, just actual coconut in there. I put some egg whites and some eggs and some cinnamon, and I blend it for a minute, and you just get this completely consistent, it's just glorious. You could not create that. Or put whole flax seeds in a smoothie and out comes nothing. You would guess there was no flax seeds in it. Like a normal blender just doesn't do that. It's a mixer. It's a fast mixer. Vitamix, Blend Tech, awesome. So anyway.
However, the chef in me is going,
yes.
There are and I have my Vitamix, but I also have a regular blender. Mm-hmm. If you're cooking the recipes on my blog, I will say on some of them, don't use your Vitamix, mm-hmm. because sometimes you want, like my hot cereal, the porridge that I made, you want some texture.
Yes, absolutely. That's a great point.
So if you put it in the Vitamix, you're going to get soup.
No, that's excellent.
So I have a regular, a $50 Cuisinart, I think, blender for when I want some texture, but then I use the Vitamix for when I want just beautiful, silky smooth smoothies, soups, or whatever. So different products for different things.
Yeah, I mean, the blender, that's a great distinction, because a blender is going to take big things and make them smaller. The Vitamix will turn it into a liquid.
Right.
It truly will.
Right.
And so you don't always want that.
My point was, don't throw out your blender.
Yeah.
Keep your blender. You just won't use it all the time. You'll just use, a high-speed blender some of the time, but you still have a use for your regular blender.
And when we talk about actually making these vegetable/green smoothies, Carrie's got some wonderful, more elaborate recipes, but I'll give a quick formula here that a lot of listeners and readers have had a lot of success with. And the formula is very simple. Step 1 is take a bunch of spinach, like more spinach than you think is reasonable, like 4 big handfuls, and stuff it down in the blender. And then take an orange or a cup of strawberries, let's say. So that's step 2. Step 3 is to add some vanilla whey protein powder. And again, we want a low sugar whey protein powder. And step 4 is to add some water and some ice cubes. And you blend that up. And, if you use an orange, it tastes like an orange creamsicle. If you use strawberry, it tastes like a strawberry smoothie. You will be shocked. I have a 100% success rate at this. You will be shocked at how little, if at all, you taste the spinach. It's going to look green, it's going to look weird, and then it's going to taste like the fruit, and it's going to taste like the vanilla whey protein powder. You will not taste the spinach. Carrie, am I lying?
You're not lying. And what you need to do is to get one of those hard plastic coloured sippies and put it in like a purple one, because the green will freak you out until you're used to it, because the one I just made was like bright lime green, and there's just no way you could think, Carrie, that cannot possibly taste like an orange creamsicle. I'm like, it does, but you've got to get past the colour.
And it's so cool, right? Because that's really easily 3, almost 4 servings of awesome non-starchy vegetables. You can use spinach, you could use romaine lettuce, you could use kale. Spinach is, I would say, if you're just getting started, use spinach. Kale is going to be a bit more bitter. Start with spinach, go from there. It's an awesome resource. And the next thing on the list, Carrie, well, do you have something you want to throw out there, or you want me to keep going?
No, keep going.
Keep going? I love buying unsweetened, undutched, raw cocoa in bulk.
I buy it in bulk too.
And I'm just a huge fan of it. Cocoa is an incredibly, incredibly healthy food. You can put it in all kinds of stuff. Carrie has a massive amount of recipes. I've got some fudge and pudding recipes up on my site. It cures those chocolate cravings, which have been scientifically proven to be the most common cravings in the world. So,
one thing, when we talked a little bit ago about where we shop, you shop at Costco, I tend to shop at Trader Joe's. The other thing I do a lot is Amazon.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Is, for the bulk chocolate. There's some things I do buy in bulk, things that will last, cocoa powder, the whey protein, ground almonds, almond meal, stuff like that, which I can either freeze or that have a long shelf life. Those I do buy in bulk. Amazon sells most things.
Yep.
And I do that because of the cost savings.
Absolutely. And I'm going to sort of tread a fine line here. I am absolutely not in the business, nor is Carrie, in selling pills, powders, or potions. That said, both of us do have brands we really like. And I've also been able to broker some good deals with some companies. So the reason I mention this is I don't sell any products, but if you do go on the Smarter Science of Slim website, you're going to see a tab called the SANE Store. All it is a collection of links. Many of them are affiliate links. But for example, like you can get the refurbished Vitamix blenders. You can get bulk cocoa from a reputable provider called Z Natural Foods. So none of this is coming from me. These are just the brands I use, the brands Carrie uses, and we've got all the links to those various brands up on our site. And the cool thing is you're not going to pay any more. In fact, in some cases, you're going to pay less. Like with the Vitamix, you get free shipping, and we get a little very, very small percentage of that. So it's a cool way to support the show, even if you're going to buy these products anyway. So that would be appreciated. And, hopefully still keeping our integrity here. So that's all good. So bulk unsweetened cocoa. Also, I am a big fan of bulk natural nut butters. Peanut butter is my personal favorite, with almond butter, all these kind of fun things. The reason I mention this explicitly is we want to go natural. All of us probably have peanut butter in our pantry right now. The fact that it is in your pantry is a sign that it's not natural. The reason it can stay good in your pantry is because it has a bunch of hydrogenated garbage in it that is literally breaking your metabolism. If at all possible, when you buy nut butters, the ingredients should say peanuts or almonds or cashews. That's it. There should be nothing else on the ingredients label. And even some stores have like little machines nowadays that make them for you. So you just like put a little, almost like a soft serve ice cream cone, but it's a cup. Underneath it, you press a button and it takes peanuts and it turns them into peanut butter right in front of you, which is cool.
Right. Or just read labels.
Yeah.
Again, Trader Joe's have their peanut butter is fabulous. It's just got peanuts in it and it tastes fantastic and it's all good.
It's all good. And these need to be refrigerated. And just a general tip we may have mentioned earlier, which is anytime you do anything involving nuts or seeds, technically they don't have to be refrigerated, but you're going to get much better results if you do.
Nuts do. Nuts have a lot of fat in them, and fat goes rancid.
And a lot of people don't, and the experience is so much better if you do. So keep them in the fridge.
The taste of rancid nuts is not pleasant.
No.
So, and they're expensive.
They are expensive. They take on that white look.
They are expensive. You don't want to be throwing nuts away because they've gone off. So just, you can freeze them. You can freeze them. If you buy them in the shell, you can freeze them in the shell. If you buy them out the shell, you can freeze them. So I just keep a small jar in the fridge.
Yep.
And then I keep bulk nuts in the freezer.
Brilliant.
And then I just top them up when I need to.
Yep.
Same with the almond flour. I keep my almond flour in the freezer.
I like it.
Because I can buy in bulk and store it that way. And then I just keep a big storage jar in my kitchen, which is what I use to make all these crazy cookies and things I've been making lately.
That's and the other thing about nuts to keep in mind, folks, is there's raw nuts and then there's like honey roasted peanuts. Those are not the same thing. Raw nuts are ideal. This doesn't mean you can't eat any other kind of nuts, but just be careful because, I love Costco, but Costco has chocolate covered this kind of nut and sugar soaked, blah blah blah. If at all possible, buy raw nuts in bulk. And again, some good resources to do that. And then one other thing I forgot to mention, we were talking about blenders, is Carrie and I are very consciously recommending blenders, not juicers. A juicer extracts all of the fiber out into this pulp container, and all you're left with is the juice. And that's not bad. You still get a lot of vitamins and minerals, but it's not going to satisfy you at all. Remember, we talked about satiety, water, fiber, and protein. You got water with juice, but you have no fiber. Fiber is good stuff. So use a good blender, and it's going to make the thing a liquid, and you're going to get all the fiber. You're eating a whole food. With a juicer, you're not eating a whole food. You're eating the juice. So if we're going to be about whole foods, which we are, we need to eat blended whole foods, not juiced foods.
But I think that some of the confusion, for want of a better word, around that is because when you put food in a regular blender, you don't get something like juice.
That's exactly.
When you put food in a Vitamix,
you do.
You get juice.
Yep.
But you get all the fiber in with it. And it's
so wonderful.
When I did have a juicer, it used to kill me. All the stuff that I was throwing away, it used to kill me, right? And you juice, like 3 heads of celery, and you get like 4 ounces of juice, and it's like, really?
And it's really cool. I mean, there's I don't know how many billions of dollars a market it is, this flavored water market. One of my favorite things to do in the world, you don't really make juice, but you make flavored water. Like take 12 ounces of water and put 2 frozen strawberries in it. Blend it for a minute. You've got this delicious, it's crystal clear, it's water, it tastes like strawberries, it's fantastic. So you can make your own vitamin water, and it doesn't have all the sugar and other garbage in it. Or you could just make straight up juice. You just use less water and more fruit. So, and of course you could add vegetables, and then it's even better. So that's all good stuff. The final thing I would say is more having to do with exercise. And that is, if you're going to be exercising at home, having some resistance bands. Again, these are incredibly inexpensive. They're less than $50. They allow you to add resistance to your at-home eccentric exercises very easily. You could potentially grab a set of adjustable dumbbells like Carrie has. And there's also a thing called a weight vest, which is something you wear, which is also somewhat useful.
I haven't got a weight vest yet.
You don't have a weight. It's not required. It's just, some people like it. So like if
we'll see if I ever graduate to that. Hey, I had my numbers done last week. I didn't tell you.
Number of what? Number.
My annual
medical?
blood test,
medical
wonderful. Numbers thing.
How you doing?
So my weight's the same.
Okay.
My waist, however, is 2 inches smaller.
Yay! So that's because you are building muscle and burning fat.
If you're still hanging on to your scale, lovely people,
throw it away.
Let this be the lesson. Same weight, waist 2 inches smaller. Everything else was lower that needed to be lower.
Yep.
Everything else that was higher was supposed to be higher. It was all goodness.
That's awesome. And again, that's not like Carrie's opinion. It's not my opinion. Your waist circumference has so much more to do with your long-term health than your weight. In fact, statistics actually show that people who weigh too little actually have a higher mortality rate than people that weigh too much. So your weight is just not relevant at all. Focus on your waist circumference if you're going to focus on anything. And remember to measure at most once a month and to measure at the same time of day and the same day of week. Because 8 a.m. on a Monday morning is very different in terms of your waist than 8 p.m. on a Friday night.
And if you're a girl, be careful when in the month you do it.
Or just do it consistently.
Just do it consistently. You know what I'm talking about.
Absolutely. So the last thing I'll mention, this is sort of a grab bag podcast, and next week we're actually going to dig into some more studies. But the one thing I'll mention here is I often get asked about how to eat in relation to your workouts, because you only have 1 or 2 per week. The thing to keep in mind, the science is pretty clear here. Taking in one of your 30-gram servings of protein before your workout and potentially another one after your workout, definitely one after your workout, potentially one before your workout, is a very, very good strategy. And if and this is because it helps your muscles to recover, it's actually do the 30 grams of protein after your workout. Just do that. The 30 grams before is optional. The other thing to keep in mind is if you are going to go insane, doing it immediately after your workout is the best time to do it, because the fact that you just exercise eccentrically will sort of buffer the metabolic damage a bit. So again, I'm not encouraging everyone to go swing by Krispy Kreme after your workout. That's not it at all. However, if you're going to go to Krispy Kreme, no matter what, if you can do that within an hour after finishing your eccentric workout, that would be the best time to do that activity, which ideally you would never do. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So, making the best of a bad situation.
Right.
So, Carrie.
Because every once in a while, the people like me who have been on the dark side.
The dark side.
Just need to do something crazy.
Well, but Carrie, I'm going to challenge you because I have seen your recipes, and if we've got freaking SANE scones, you've got SANE cookies. It's only a matter of time till you come up with some SANE donut recipe, which is going to be.
Yeah.
So
but until we get there.
Awesome. Well, no, hopefully this has been helpful, folks. We're going to do a kind of a summary of some more science next week, and then we're moving on to phase 2 of the Smarter Science of Slim podcast, which will be very exciting. So, yay! Jonathan Bailor, Carrie Brown. We're eating more, we're exercising less, but we're doing it smarter, and we'll see you next week. Wait, don't stop listening yet. If you like the podcast and if there's other ways we can help you, please join us in the Smarter Science of Slim support group, which is freely available at the Smarter Science of Slim website, smarterscienceofslim.com. There you'll find all kinds of free recipes and success stories and just all kinds of fun stuff, like how to help your kids go sane and just great community content.
And just one last thing before you go, if you wouldn't mind heading over to iTunes and up onto Amazon.com and leaving us a review, and then going over to Facebook and liking us, we would hugely appreciate it.